time for dads now. Look, it's all about dads. I don't want you talking about anything but dads, 'cause it's all dads now. It's Inside Dad. Ooh, Inside Dad. Oh, Dave.
I take pleasure in gutting you, boy.
Boy. You're on Inside Dads. And we're
am.
covering 1996's The Rock.
We are.
We had to. I mean, it's like premier daddy.
It's our second Michael Bay, but
I think that's justified.
Yeah.
But we'll take a break from Michael Bay a little bit. You know, we've done a bunch of ones. We did a comedy. We did Wall Street. We did Alex Cross. You know, like we did Kiss the Girls.
We did.
You do Kiss the Girls. You do a Michael Bay. It works out, man.
it's fine.
But yeah,
There was always going to be multiple Michael Bays on this.
we did cover Armageddon. We're talking about dad films, dad movies, and dads for decades, basically. Films have spit back at the audience a certain portrait of a dad. So much so that there's films that are philosophically dad-coded, I would argue.
Yeah.
So we're going to plunge into what makes a dad tick according to Hollywood, and why is it that the internet in particular, but definitely, you know, in the 90s and 2000s, we had these movies that were generated to please the mentality, the philosophy, and just the visuals of what dads want.
And this movie, man.
And this is
like insultingly dad coded. Just the music, like the action guitar, and it's like
militaristic drums.
Yeah, it felt offensive for me as a man watching. It's just like, all right, I see what you're doing, and I hate that it's working.
It's by far the most slow motion of any dad movie.
Oh, yeah.
I would argue.
Michael Bay, he never forgets a reason to include an explosion too. And like watching it, I don't disagree. Like every explosion, I'm like, that thing is beautiful.
Perfect answer. He knows there's a reason why he's successful. There's a reason why he's a craftsman, even if he's a goddamn monster and his opinions are,
yes,
you know.
It's brazen in a way. I hate to bring up politics. It's almost Trumpian. And what I mean is you watch a Michael Bay film and you go, how does he get away with this? Like, it's so insulting. And yet I'm watching and he just keeps getting away with, you know, you're watching and you're like, why is there a mine shaft under Alcatraz? I don't give a shit, I guess. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
what are they getting coal down
yeah,
there?
it's just so brazen. It's so boldly like, I don't give a shit.
Unapologetic.
Like, yeah.
Who's going to stop me?
Yeah.
I'm fucking Michael Bay, baby.
And like this one is so keys jangling. Like just the cast of guys in it. John C. McGinley, Michael Biehn, David Moore, Xander Berkeley. Xander Berkeley is barely in it. They don't even have time for Xander Berkeley.
William Forsythe.
Yeah. Where it's like so many daddies.
Tony Todd.
Yeah. So many guys that you know from things.
Right. But I would say that there's three, as we found, there's different flavors of daddy in dad movies. And we have like three big ones, you know, because we have our protagonist is always kind of seen as a dad. Like that's kind of a necessary, you know, we've discussed some films like What Lies Beneath and stuff like that, where they try to subvert that. But, you know, run of the mill missionary position, dad film, you know, Nicolas Cage in this, who's like kind of the young daddy.
He becomes a dad within it.
He becomes a daddy. And then you have Sean Connery, who's like old. We'll talk about the moral implications of like a Sean Connery and an Ed Harris and like what they represent to each other in society. But they're like the old guard, the older dads who are giving wisdom to the new dads. And so it's a dad fight movie.
It's a dad fight.
A lot of the dad movies are kind of dad fights.
It also
310 to Yuma and whatnot.
Oh yeah, and when we get to it, I'll bring it up. I also thought of a new thing that maybe we touched on in the past, but there is a through line of almost all the films we watched that this movie made me realize is there.
Same.
Okay, good.
I'll point it out when it comes out.
I'll do it in the smoking room.
But I think that will be in our last segment, the
Yeah.
smoking room, where we discuss ultimately our unified field theory of dad.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let's inspect what makes the rock tick. And in order to do that, we need to get inside this dad.
Yeah, let's get inside the rock.
So, first scene. We get that militaristic uplifting music, but it's a funeral, you see. The reason the movie's going to happen.
Yep.
Ed Harris is, I think, General Hummel, the biggest boy the Army has. He's so many medals, Dave, and he seems like he's just keeping it together, but he's actually a mess inside, and he's going to do a crime.
Yeah, he is.
As the slow-mo funeral happens with all the pomp and circumstance that the military funerals afford, he reads a letter to the government. I'm going to attack you, America, because you killed the sons of the country and you never gave them money for dying for their country.
Yep.
He takes off his wedding ring because that's the kind of man he is. He can't
Implicate
fight
his
openly America. He can't with his wedding ring on.
Right.
That would be an insult to her memory because you see she's dead.
He apologizes to her ghost for what he's going to do.
And we get the famous, of course, fridging of the lady.
Yeah.
This is the most famous one. I think everyone's seen the meme where it's
his wife.
Literally his wife on her tombstone as if she's just an ornament to him. Which is true because he's just all ornaments. He's medals. He puts on top of her tombstone his Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest, epithet that we can give someone in the military. So he's just the biggest military daddy that exists. Yeah. He leaves flowers because he loves her and he tells her he has to do it. He leaves the Medal of Honor. And we cut to the plan in action. So, by the way, this is 2 hours and like 5 minutes. I forget that somewhere.
It's like 2 hours
there.
15, I think.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to tell. That's one of the powers of Michael Bay. Some of these scenes are 10 seconds. It just moves, and I'm gonna unpack like the first 30 minutes a little more than the middle and ending in the movie, just because that's where all.
The action. There's some action stuff that I want to call out, but yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, it's more of what the movie's saying and how it's saying it. But yeah, we cut to this plan of action at a brazen pace. His team of terrorists steal VX2 gas from an experimental facility.
Some things I have to call out because it's, again, this is where you realize how brazen it is. These are soldiers. And they are doing stuff like at one point a soldier punches another soldier so hard he does a backflip. One of them hides behind a post and then shoots two guns. They're doing like the dumbest, there's a lot of like two guns, like just firing two guns.
It's not strategy.
Firing. Yeah, like it's just such bad fighting.
It's brute force.
Such bad combat. Yeah.
But they're walking at Ed Harris is walking at such a pace that you're like, these guys got it covered.
Yeah,
man.
it's so pandering, I guess. It's just like, this is not how soldiers fight, but whatever.
Yeah, and we kind of see the stakes at hand because, I want to get into two things. One, first, they're stealing the experimental gas, and one of the pearls, because it's like a pearl
the anal beads,
ball, the anal beads that have the green goo. It drops in order, plan and payoff. In order to show what it does, it boils your face off. It destroys your nervous system.
This scene has a purpose.
In the world.
It has a purpose.
It has a purpose.
Shows
Michael Bay is
melting
always
a guy's face off. Yeah.
In any case, though, I do want to point out one kind of dad philosophy that I think is a through line throughout this movie, and I hope to get your reaction to it as well, because we see how, and it comes up a lot in dad films, because we always have this kind of vigilantism where we have this idea of the authority or the system and what's good about it, but like the secret what's good about it, like there's a secret kind of like virtue that is behind the system, and sometimes
the reverence.
We have a reverence for it, but sometimes it isn't held up, and a lot of dad films talk about how the infrastructure is not actually doing its job.
This movie is
right?
a reverence off. This movie's all about fighting. It's all honor fight. It's my honor
Right.
is this, and the other person goes like, but my honor is this, and
But
they're
my honor
both
is this.
right and they're both wrong, etc.
Right. And something I actually like about this movie, because I think there's actually something to be said here, and he kind of doesn't nail it, but like he points out the hypocrisy very usefully, is how the system, the entire system of like daddies, and I guess in this case the military, relies upon respect. Like it's not just pencil pushers, right? That's something they kind of land on, that there are people trying to be pencil pushers, but they, fuck off,
Yes.
The soldier at the welcome gate as they're going to steal the VX gas is like actually stops and goes, why is this 4-star general want into the facility at the middle of the night? This makes no sense. Like he calls it out, but he's like, all right, because I know of you and you're such a badass and a hero. That means that, I don't know. It's interesting to me because that means that the systems that dad movies elevate, or what they elevate in these systems, we're meant to believe that you can look past all the red tape, just look a man in the eye and know what he's about.
Right.
It's also what's being taken advantage of constantly in this movie. Almost all of the crimes are based around this idea of taking advantage of like that good old boy
Literally
spirit.
a handshake is betrayed later.
Like exactly.
Using the idea of like, let's shake on it,
Yeah, a ton of this movie has this energy where it's like, what do you know? You weren't in the shit with your brothers, and it offers that it's a flaw that we become too cold, too isolated from each other. But it's also like the fraternity is the thing that he is manipulating in particular.
Yes.
It's wild. Anyway, they clear out the compound and Ed Harris walks in with his huge penis, and people hand him stuff and he doesn't change his pace. This is just a Thursday for him.
Yep.
I do like how it shows every VX2 missile being loaded competently by two guys. Like it's like one after another.
Right.
The missiles are going out. And then there's just this one fucking turkey, this fucking dunce who tries to lift one himself.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a,
he's like,
doesn't
I
have a buddy.
fucking got it.
So he broke the buddy system. And of course, that's why he dies.
Yeah.
But it's just really funny to me.
Oh yeah, I love any like someone confidently kicking themselves in the dick,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh no!" Anyway, we all remember that scene. David Morse is like, "I'm sorry," as he stares at him through the window. Cut to the FBI laboratory in Washington D.C., where we meet a real charismatic loser, Nicolas Cage,
shooting plastic guns, pew pew, making a Rube
Goldberg machines. Because he's a nerd.
Because he's a nerd, but he's cool.
I love Michael Bay.
His name is Stanley Goodspeed. He's into the Beatles. Abe, did you notice that he was into the Beatles? Did you notice that subtle reference? Yes.
Yeah.
Of him saying,
is like
I'm a Beatle maniac.
It's Michael Bay is just a fucking robot, man. There's a moment later where he's just like, I don't know, what is a smart guy like? And in this case, it's like, what is a charismatic guy like? The Beatles?
Well,
I don't think he's ever felt anything listening to any music whatsoever.
Yeah, this is the struggle of Stanley Goodspeed, and what I mean is that whoever wrote this, and Michael Bay as well, they're walking a fine line, which is that Stanley Goodspeed is a nerd. He's a dumb pencil pushing geek and we hate him, but also we like him and he's cool and he fucks. So like they have to kind of do, because the idea, right? And they're smart because this is a good movie in terms of action. This is a good action movie, and it knows have the main guy not know what he's doing. And so like but it's hard because what this starts with is him having to fuse a chemical bomb in a special chamber, and he completely keeps his cool.
And they give you the foil. They give you his partner who fucks it up to show the difference between him and all his other peers.
Find porn mags in the package, and babies are bad because babies shoot poison gas.
A baby doll they put in.
And he's like, seal us inside. Or one of them is like, the sprinklers don't work for some reason. That's a terrible thing for the facility to like. That like Congress needs to get involved. But then he nails the bomb. He nails it. He defuses the bomb. He keeps his cool.
10 seconds left.
And I think that kind of works against it's a lot of Michael Bay is him sort of wanting something, but wanting something to be cool. And he always like he'll choose something being cool over the logical thing.
True.
In this case,
although
being
this
like,
works. Well, I would just say this works because he is really good at his chemical weapons thing.
Right.
But he's a fish out of water for the thing that he has to do in this movie, which is ultimately be a field agent.
Right. So what you would want to show in this scene is a man who's really knowledgeable but can't handle pressure.
Right. That's the thing.
Yeah. That's
not
where
handling pressure should be a part of it. A little bit.
But what they show here is he's great. He can handle. He's being threatened with death in the first fucking scene. I guess technically the second scene we see him, and he's fine with it.
It's true. They could have done that growth, but I think Michael Bay doesn't give a shit, and he's not wrong in that. Like, yeah, it would be a more like dramatic movie. Your protagonist would change over the course of the thing. He's like, I don't need that. No. I am just here to blow up San Francisco.
How do we get some tits in this scene? Have like a porn mag be in the
hell
in the bum.
Yeah, Michael Bay loves titties. No, that's you nailed it. You nailed it. And then we cut to Naked Cage. Yep. He's playing guitar, sullen and existential, and he talks to his equally hot wife.
Is it wife? No, she says we're not married.
Oh, they're not wife yet.
His girlfriend.
In fact, this scene turns them into fiancé. They're going to be affianced.
She walks in and says, "Good news, honey, your dick works."
Your dick works.
Yeah.
Which is mainstay of these dad films.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that like you can't help Michael Bay can't help himself, and the writers of this can't help themselves to like turn it into an awkward thing where like sometimes dudes feel this like the dread of like, oh, life is so hard. We should, and he makes a statement about why you'd be insane to like make a kid right now, right before he learns that she's pregnant, because the world's so fucked.
Yep.
And it's like that is such a daddy like conundrum that like dads love to kind of set up themselves up. It's like, I guess we gotta have to step up to the plate because I love my kid, but the world is terrible out there and I got to protect him. It's setting him perfectly up for that kind of engagement with the world. And so we get that little argument. And they decide they're going to get married if they're going to have a kid because that's the right thing to do, right? Because America and normalization. Nobly, I think they're doing a progressive 90s thing in the scene, by the way. Like they're calling it out. She asks him to get married.
You're right. That's so woke.
It's so woke, dude. 1996 woke. Cut to Alcatraz. Ed Harris and company just kindly tell all the tourists to fuck off, and most of it is because like the two dudes standing next to Ed Harris are enormous, like wrestler-sized people. So all of the tourists and the tour guides are like, oh, okay, I guess you guys are strong guys, so you get Alcatraz, and that's how he takes over.
Well,
Alcatraz.
they show that he has honor because he tells two little girls to tell their teacher it's time to leave, which I just thought was funny because if I was one of those little girls, I'd be like, the fuck am I going to do? Like you go to the teacher and go, it's time to leave, and the teacher goes, no, it's not. And that's it. Like, no,
it's not gonna
you don't have authority over your teacher. Telling those little kids to go tell their teacher that they have to go, it's like the teacher's just gonna go no, and that's that.
It's the equivalent of thoughts and prayers, man.
Yes, it really is.
It's to
show he has honor.
The effort was made, so he's a good guy, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's all, and that's enough for The Rock. So yeah, he's not the worst guy. And he makes a little speech to all the now inmates of Alcatraz that were the tourists. I'm going to treat you well. Nothing's going to happen to you. No one's going to get hurt. Even though he breaks that later in the film. Where he literally points a gun at a poor man who's crying about his children. But until now, he's like, I mean really well. It's like the bank robber walking in saying like, no one will get hurt if nothing goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that's going to reveal the hypocrisy later. It's a lot. He gives a speech to his men about how America was technically built by traders, and it's all about perspective, and this has to be their choice. He's offering like their consent,
right?
But his men love him so much that they're like, "Yes, sir," in unison.
The men are also probably like, "Yeah, we went through all this before we got here. Like, it would be weird if this was a surprise right now.
Right, yeah.
And they're like, sir, I thought we were just touring Alcatraz.
You did this speech like 3 weeks ago.
It would be amazing if it was just like, yeah, sir, I had the whole day planned. I didn't know this is what we were doing today.
Yeah. And also notable is that we've only kind of garners like what exactly is going on in terms of like what he's protesting and such.
Yeah.
He makes it very explicit. It's very specific. Soldiers died. 100 soldiers died during his, tenure as a general. And when they died, which is, an artifact of war, and he's like, I understand that has to happen. But because of the black ops nature of what we're doing, they were never publicly admitted as dying or being a part of that mission. So they didn't receive compensation from their government.
Right.
And so it's all about money. That's the ill that they're protesting is technically money. And he just calls the FBI director Womack and he's like, anyway, I took Alcatraz, baby, come get me. And my name is Hummel. It's all big dick posturing at this point. And Womack's like, we need get everyone in the room. All of the white guys need to be in the bunker now. And that's the government response. Like every Roland Emmerich or Michael Bay film, the government is a large table of white dudes over 50.
Very seriously talking about very silly things.
Here's my favorite part about this movie, honestly. So many scenes of men telling other men how another man is the most badass man. Because that's how they start this meeting, is they read out how much of Hummel, his history and all the Purple Hearts, all the medals of honor. He's a goddamn hero. And it's funny because the guy is like, this guy's a hero. We can't kill this guy. And then the guy who trumps the chief of staff is like, but we have to. He's doing terrorism, basically.
Yep.
And then the guy becomes flippant where he's like, well, I guess that's true. He is being a terrorist. And then the guy who basically said that originally was like, you treat him with respect, damn it. And it's like, wait, what is people's opinion on this guy? Can you respect him or not? Are we not respecting him enough?
End with them all sitting around okay, wait, so who wanted to kill him?
Yeah, exactly. They're flipping back and forth. Yeah. But it's because he's a man of, because they don't know what to do with the information. He's like, he's a man of honor. He doesn't do this type of stuff. Yet, obviously he's doing this type of stuff. Anyway, the next scene, the same guy who's 33, we learn, the chief of staff, gets reamed again by Harris for pointing out technicalities.
He talks about the operations in China, and he goes, we never invaded China. And he's like, who the fuck am I talking to? Who is that? And he's like, I'm the White House chief of staff. I'm the dumb little pencil pusher.
33.
He says, by your 9th birthday, I was running black ops into China. He's like, I don't want to hear from that guy again. So we're immediately like, fuck the pencil pushers.
Yeah,
fuck this
anyone.
guy.
And it's like this guy, by the way, once again, has not said anything that other people didn't allude to.
Yeah.
He is just vocalizing it more. And they're like, we don't like that.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy we can point out, but don't harp on it. God damn it. That makes you a villain.
Right.
Anyway, hilarious Michael Bayism. He wants each, and this is an amazing 1996 inflation rate kind of deal. 100 soldiers were never paid, and he wants to give each of the families $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's $100 million. That's what he's asking for, which is seemingly very reasonable. I was for gonna say, that he's asking.
One of the things I like, once it gets really bad, there's a point where it's like the army, just give them the money.
Yeah, don't you have trillions of dollars?
Yeah, it's that's the cost of a missile. Just give them the fucking money. It's fine.
Well, remember, this is 1996. 9/11 hadn't happened yet. And the kind of hardlining about we don't negotiate with terrorists thing had yet to seep into and settle in the zeitgeist of American politics and how people thought at home. So movies were kind of just playing with it, and its inconsistency can kind of rear its head at times, especially in a film like this. In any case, they have a plan to send a team in. The government, that is, has a plan to, after the call, is rather than send money, which is a backup. We're going to have a backup for the backup, which is bombing the entire island.
Yep.
But we need presidential like thumbs up for that. So that's really a backup. But our first plan is to send in a team and try to neutralize these hot Marines, which is a tough task, admitted by all of them. Anyway, the FBI calls Nick Cage while he and his fiancée are boning
On a roof.
On a roof, very kind of publicly, because you get they're in Washington D.C. That's like there's buildings all around, but I guess that's a part of it for them.
Yeah.
And he kisses her, and he's like, "Baby, you remind me what I fight for, and I have to go. It's not a training exercise."
He also invites her there to San Francisco.
Yeah, because they agree to get married and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So his dick works. Women are, the cost or the reason for doing stuff, but her character is not much more than that.
No,
because
she's going to be in peril at a certain point. Needlessly, I would add, because there's a part where he's like, "God, geez, I told my pregnant girlfriend to come here," and he like calls her and he's like, "Don't come here," and she doesn't listen. Then she comes there. They tell her the stakes, and at that point, you can go like, "Okay, so leave."
Yeah,
get
just
on
don't
a
be where
plane
the
or get on a fucking like a military helicopter. Get her out of here. It'll make me focus on my job more. They just leave her there to up the stakes because they're like, you better do a good job or else we're gonna kill your pregnant girlfriend needlessly.
Right. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But this is how it works, baby. This is Michael Bay. A rogue Philip Baker Hall appears once again in a boardroom.
Yep.
When they're confronted with the reality that apparently beneath Alcatraz is just a maze.
Yeah.
And no one has ever figured it out or wrote it down for some reason.
Alcatraz, it turns out, was created by an evil wizard. Because it is it is madness under Alcatraz. It turns out. Again, there are Indiana Jones style like mine shafts. Waterfalls. It's Goonies up in there. It is a fucking adventure.
There's timed active events with fire. Like we're gonna
I
get
wouldn't have batted an eye if under there they encountered a civilization.
There's just Mayans, like just a bunch of Mayans who've stood the test of time. It's my favorite part is once again we get that scene where he's like, "He's a badass. I need to tell you about how badass this guy is," because said maze, in order to navigate, Philip Baker Hall is like, "Hey, Womack, FBI director, we have that super secret British spy, Sean Connery, right, who broke out of Alcatraz, and maybe we should have him guide the team because he's the only guy who could do it." Anyway, we cut to his cell, and he's basically a madman. They're kind of doing a Hannibal Lecter thing.
Yeah.
And it might be my favorite shot in Michael Bay films. We get a shot of books, just to show how smart, smart
they quote books later, too. It's just like, and the guy's wicked smart.
Oh, but the point is, it's The Art of War, and then it's just a generic big book called Shakespeare.
Yep.
Which are like the perfect books for Michael to be like, check out this smart guy's
You might as well have a book that just says facts on it.
Yeah, like he's not wrong. Those are books for smart guys.
Yeah.
But it's like the perfect ones that Michael Bay would like choose. I love it.
Right.
I love it so much.
And what's going to happen is he'll reference a bunch of books and Nicolas Cage will also talk about his book learning. And then we're like, see, we both know book learning.
Yeah, I'm surprised Marcus Aurelius is not in this.
Yeah.
It's because I don't think that Michael Bay was that smart yet. He was like, Shakespeare,
Yeah.
That's a tough one to learn, right? Maybe she'd throw a physics book.
Surprised he didn't throw an Ayn Rand in there.
Yeah. Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. So we, of course, have a scene where the FBI director reads Godspeed's record as well. So now this is the third scene almost in a row where he's like, this guy's a PhD on a PhD on a PhD. So we've had these three dads have gotten read your history treatment. He's the chemical badass and whatnot. And we have seen where Goodspeed, a fellow man of letters, gets the signature from Connery to be involved in this heist. He's like, basically, if you do this thing for us, you get a presidential pardon. And the first guy that comes in, who's just kind of this, basically like a Boston cop. He's not smart enough to cut through Sean Connery's, fanciness. You need someone like Nick Cage, who's also a nerd.
They do an interesting thing here, which is it's anti-dad film in a way, which is that they throw away machismo. They go like, that's not what is going to get through to him. It's earnestness and like being kind of, like clearly bumbling. Is like kind of and what eventually, it doesn't right away, but eventually wins over Sean Connery, right? Like kindness,
yes,
not embarrassing him in front of his daughter, stuff like that.
We saw this kind of alluded to in The Edge with Anthony Hopkins' character, where while he was the best at everything, and like basically you could say on paper everything he did was amazing.
Yeah.
He had this humility to him. He had this bumblingness attribute to him that made him endearing even to blue-collar people.
And here's the thing.
And this is kind of the reverse of that.
Dads, when you think about it depends on a house structure. There's obviously the conservative view of what a dad role is in a family, but I think a lot of people growing up, dad is the kind of the comic relief of a family, kind of the butt of jokes is like you have to take a hit as the dad, which is like say kids want to prank someone. Who are you going to prank in the house? You prank dad.
You prank dad. He can take it, right?
Exactly. And so like there is that need to be like that humbleness in dad movies.
Cool, collected. Yeah, that's what you aspire to be. And it's also why I think that because humor, often we deal with insecurities via humor, or at least it's a part of the whole smorgasbord. And one of the reasons that when you think about dad humor, like 50% of it is puns, but 50% of it is self-deprecation.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from that same psychology where it's like, I can take it. It's funny. It's normalized. People like it when me as a guy does a self-deprecation joke, because that means that he doesn't take himself seriously. Because if he did, then he's a threat, you know, then he's a problem. So it's a way to avoid that kind of analysis.
Yes. And it is one of the more positive aspects of a dad film where it's like, dad films aren't all toxic traits for sure. Like that's why we love them. And so that's one of the ones that I really like, which is the idea of like, a good dad is someone that if you do the shaving cream on the hand,
prank on,
that they wake up and they go, oh, and they laugh.
Won't,
they don't punch the wall.
Ideally. Obviously there are those cases.
It's what makes an honorable dad.
But this is Hollywood reflecting like this is what a dad should be. And obviously you can get positive traits out of negative like interactions or negative like systems.
Right.
Like I would say that self-deprecation is one of them. Is like that's a nice little thing to be, to have humor about yourself, but it almost feels like it was built out of a tradition of men are a certain way, which can be toxic. So I did want to just kind of allude to the fact that you can have both at the same time.
For sure.
That's why I find this such a fascinating topic about masculinity in the 90s and what we were being told as
Stanley still has to be awesome in this movie.
Yeah, you still have to be awesome. Yeah. If you're not awesome, you're not truly a father or a man, really. And that's that whole cat of bags right there. What does that even mean? But in any case, he agrees. Sean Connery agrees. I'll do this thing for you. But he's like, but I want, you see, a fellow man of letters. I want to get a shave, a haircut, and a feel of a suit and a hotel room. I want to feel like a man.
Yep. This is important. Dog. They give him a pardon. He signs it, and then they rip it up behind his back.
Yeah. So Womack's a piece of shit.
And then we also see how clever Sean Connery is, because one of the guys gives him a quarter, goes like, here, you committed, call your lawyer. And then he takes the quarter and uses his apparent gorilla weight to smash the quarter into a fine blade, which I was like, how much do you weigh, Sean Connery? Just the force of a train.
Well, I actually have tested this. I found this awesome because I tested this where if you have like a aluminum chair or like a metal chair that won't give, like I don't know what's in a quarter, probably zinc or whatnot. you can fray the edges enough that it is now like a small blade.
It works.
I don't think this would work on a two-way mirror, which is very thick.
Oh yeah, you can tell it doesn't work.
His elbow is doing a lot.
Yeah,
of
you
effort
can tell
there.
from the effect is like you didn't cut through anything. You scratched
No, it's just
it.
breakaway glass. Yeah, but the concept at play here, speciously, I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
they bring
in any case
to this hotel room, and I want to note something here. This is a case where they want him to be clever, but in order for him to be clever, everything around him has to be stupid. Yeah. Because they don't even watch him while he showers. He's showering and they have him behind a curtain and he gets access to a rope. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's like one of the main things you don't want a prisoner to have access to.
Like someone didn't even inspect the shower to see if there was like a blade there or something.
It's like a shower rope. You know, showers have ropes.
If you want to, it's a clothesline that some people use, like in old hotels and stuff like that. You hang your clothes in the bathroom, kind of thing.
Yeah, no one's watching, no one's checking. He orders room service also while in the shower, and no one seems to hear or notice that because there's like a weird. I don't know how the shower. It's like a weird like corner of the shower. They're doing a terrible job guarding this prisoner. In prison, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't have modesty. They'd be like, no, you shower naked in front of us.
You shower naked in front of us, but here, for some reason, we're like, what, are we going to look at Sean Connery's dick?
Yep.
No.
They repeatedly don't search him throughout. They give him the suit. Room service shows up mysteriously. So the guards go, well, we should eat this and also blast music while we do it. Let's just have
this is a party now. Well, I think that's what Michael Bay's trying to set up, is that it's unexpected that because he's so old, there's that line before where he's like, I have to wake up 4 times to
I wrote that line down because it was weird to me where he says he's my age now, for God's sakes. It's a weird thing to say about a guy you know. Does that seem weird to you?
Yeah, if I were to say that about you.
Right, where it's like he's my age now, and it's like saying that about someone you've known. Like, it's just a weird phrasing of that, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah, because like you were also my age, right? Always,
exactly. Like, yes, that's what it implies, that you weren't always the same age, right. And it's like, yeah,
I think the idea is that Philip Baker Hall was never a guy who could like do like a plane in midair, right. But now that Sean Connery, who used to be a physical specimen, is of advanced age, he can't do shit.
But yes, they repeatedly...
Turns out he's wrong about that.
That's the thing. They repeatedly have the guards be like, this old guy, what he's going to do. And it's like, isn't he like the greatest escape artist? You established that.
Yes.
He is dangerous. And then they just completely are just like, it's fine. And then he says, let's go out to the balcony. And they're all like, yeah, let's do that. And it's like, all right.
Sounds awesome.
Even if he's not going to hurt somebody, he could be suicidal. Like he could just take a leap off that balcony. He could shove someone off. It's so they're making so many terrible mistakes around him here.
So many terrible mistakes, and they all culminate ultimately in he uses the rope to throw Womack off the balcony, but he catches him because he's not a murderer, even though he's probably justified in killing this guy who took his life.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's honorable thief, and he kind of uses his time to escape the hotel room while all the bumbling guards. Only Goodspeed is the one to like be there on call. Yep. He's the guy who's not even a field agent is the only guy who's around.
Yep.
And it starts this huge freaking car chase that is honestly spectacular.
He escapes, by the way,
analysis.
Unguarded hotel too, where nothing at the entrances.
Nothing at the entrance. It was just all because
all
I think they're supposed to be secret, but whatever. It's Michael Bay logic. He just wants us to get in the Ferraris as quick as possible.
Yes, the two most awesome cars are parked outside.
Humvee and Ferrari, and it's like I think I even did a director piece theater about like just this sequence. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, we don't have to like go through
but we're not going to inspect it because there's no dad theory really to inspect unless you have something.
I do want to note that they keep they keep attacking like lesser transportation, like wimpy. They attack a VW bug.
Yeah.
They explode a water truck. They explode a meter-maid golf cart. It explodes. Like the mail was flammable, was gasoline.
Hell yeah.
And then they explode a trolley that flies in the air. The trolley driver acts like he owns the trolley after it crashes.
He says it's my baby.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. That's a Michael Bay thing. He's done
That's
that.
a Michael Bay thing.
If he can insert a fun character, he will, and occasionally that character will be a stereotype, much like the hairdresser we met earlier.
And much like in Armageddon, the guy with the dog.
Yeah.
It's just like he does this weird slice of life. Also in Armageddon, he has the husband and wife who hate each other. So it's that kind of Michael Bayism. It's a clear thing he does. But to get back to the dad task, this whole car chase turns out it's just to get to his estranged daughter.
Yes,
Jade.
Not to slow us down, we learn that Nicolas Cage has his nerd friend hack, I think, the prison records that have there's no record of Sean Connery. His name isn't there, but they have medical records. They wiped him from the sister, but they kept his daughter's name for some reason. So that's how he follows. He tracks her address, follows her, and after this car chase that apparently his daughter hasn't heard happened, they meet.
Half the city is ruined, and he's just like, traffic was fine.
And we learn, that Sean Connery is a literal daddy who, it turns out, after escaping prison, went to a Led Zeppelin concert and banged some chick.
So basically, he's never been in her life. Like, basically just a sperm donor.
It's just funny to me that this like British spy broke out and was like, I'm going to go see Led Zeppelin and get laid.
Yeah, and... that's what was working for him at the time.
Yeah.
Tells you what this kind of guy is. But he's turned a leaf. This guy, he wants to be a dad. He wants to be in her life, and that's the good thing to be done.
Yep.
At the end, the police swarm him and his daughter, and he thanks Cage because Cage could have made it a scene, and I don't know, like
he gives him grace
in front of his daughter.
He basically goes like, "Oh, FBI, he's working with us. It's fine."
Which is responded to by Nicolas Cage with one of the better lines in the things, which is, "Why don't we cut the chit chat a-hole?" Yeah, any case. We have an HQ scene where Connery manipulates it so that he is going to go to the Rock because he's like, I don't remember, but when I'm there, I'll know.
He also says, quote, I think in this scene, you're between the Rock and a hard case. Because dads like perfect. Puns, even puns that don't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. It's just a soundbite. And Womack is like, I don't want you to go, but I guess we need it. And then Nick Cage on the other flip of the coin, he learns that he's going and he doesn't want to go. So it's against his will, which he, because he's a loser. We cut to him throwing up.
This is a dad
and he's
thing.
like, I just brought my fiance to San Francisco. He's not a hard man,
right? Like
these other motherfuckers.
I want to note when they like go over the combat. One of the army guys, I think Michael Biehn, is like, Shep, tell him what the combat situation is, and Shep has something rehearsed. Shep is Fabrizio, I believe, from Titanic. And I'm just not sure what that was about. Is Shep like Rain Man? Like, is there, like, would they know that?
It's such a well-oiled machine, dude. That's how militaries work.
Okay.
That
they
felt
just
like
have
a real
stuff
dad like that.
Of like, Shep, tell him what we're in for. And Shep rattles off this like pre-planned line. And it felt like what it honestly feels like is them going like, Shep, give us something for the trailer. Yeah.
Give us a little excitement. It's also the same reason why they have multiple scenes where people read from a, clipboard.
Yeah.
This guy's a hero or a PhD man. It's like they're really good. This is just another way to show how professional everybody is.
Yeah.
Because that's what we go when we watch that. We as dummies go like, oh, wow, that doesn't happen to me in real life. These guys must be extraordinary.
Yeah.
In any case. So they go
to the Rock. They fly in awesome helicopters.
We cut to I just wanted to say the government, the older white dudes, tell Ed Harris that according to the president's belief, not to negotiate with terrorists. They have problems getting him the money, and it's so funny because it happens multiple times.
Yeah, they're like real
He's I'll
dirtbags
get you
about
money
it.
soon, and he's just like, Harris is like, all right, well, I'll bomb San Francisco. Then you have a deadline.
Dirtbag roommate about it. They're like, oh man, we just got to get our shit together.
Just
Hold
give
on.
me another hour, man. Right before they start their infiltration, the team gets a speech about how awesome Ed Harris is. Also, just there's so many scenes where someone's like, we're about to, cross paths with the most legitimate badass the planet has ever offered.
Yeah.
And they're like, so you got to be on your best behavior. They breach the rock. Connery's memorized the fire puzzle, and he presses like X at all the right time.
I'm sorry to keep slowing it down.
No, it's fine.
So they breach the rock noisily. I just want to note, like, you could just deploy quietly into the water, but they have like helicopters. They show Ed Harris noticing. And it's just like, well, what's the point of that? They announce their presence, which will get them killed. Spoilers. But the furnace machine, what is the furnace machine? So
I don't know.
Okay.
It's the mangler, baby.
It's the mangler. So he has to get through this furnace machine that is a series of cogs and flamethrowers. And I'm not exaggerating, that you have to crawl by. And I just have to note, and I'm sure I've said this before, but I'm going to say it every time. Sean Connery goes through it because he's memorized the timing. He hasn't forgotten anything. He hasn't forgotten which pipe goes where. He's got it all in the noggin. He gets through, and then he opens a door like you're sneaking to a movie theater from the inside to let the others in. To which my question is, why didn't he use that door to escape Alcatraz originally?
Because it's a puzzle. You've played enough video games where you can only open it unless you have a green card to scan. You have to go around and press the button.
But he was originally on the other side. He's reverse engineering his break-in.
He didn't need to do it that way. Exactly.
Yes, there was no way.
He didn't need to get in. He only needed to walk through the door.
Exactly,
to
originally
leave. Escaping. Correct.
It's like a comedy beat. Flaw. That's like a literal comedy beat that you would have.
It's a flaw.
Okay.
But he gets to say, the dolly gets
welcome
to go
to the rock.
Camera, and he goes, welcome to the rock. Also, I just did a little research because you brought up something that I'm like, okay, this is actually going to become a problem for the rock.
Right.
Which is, I searched how big is Alcatraz, and I got back from Google 22 acres. And I also searched how many acres can you hear a gunshot from? And they were arguing hundreds, possibly 100 acres.
Oh yeah, so everything that happens, yeah.
So everything that's happened is very audible to everyone at all times. It's not that
again. They show Ed Harris go like there's helicopters, like they notice it, and it's like, why not just on like people have supposedly gotten across Alcatraz? Just take boats. Just take quiet boats and then dive in the water quietly like you would if you were doing a secret operation. They send in like 6 helicopters to drop them in, and it's
very loud.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're being sneaky. Like it's one of those things where it's an impossible problem for this screenplay to solve because it wants to be the way it wants to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't give a shit. But it's absolutely correct. They're constantly making decisions in this that it's like, well, everyone would hear, and we're supposed to believe that they wouldn't, or they're making the wrong decision where they're planned to actually make no one hear.
It's just
so
what's
it's
awesome.
all fucked up.
Their code name is the Eagles, and I thought that was hilarious because it's like, shouldn't they be like the moles or something? They're coming in like they're not coming in from the sky, and it's just because it's patriotic. They're the Eagles,
rock flag eagle, baby.
Yeah.
So they get in the sewers. And then, just to cut to, cut to the chase, there's a standoff as the terrorists have set up a sensor trap, and it's a very famous, cool scene. 2 commanders basically refuse to back down out of duty.
Yeah.
So we have the Ed Harris side who's like, you need to stand down, soldier. Why aren't you standing down? You're about to die. You walked into the wrong room. Meanwhile, you have our commander, or the one that, is Mason and Goodspeed, Nick Cage and Sean Connery's side, who's like, I can't give that order. I gave an oath that as a Navy SEAL, I have to protect, from foreign to domestic threats. And so they're just, posturing who's got the bigger dick. It's classic warfare stuff, which I think Michael Bay at times does take the piss out of. Like, he's a little bit like, look at these 2 barking dogs. This is not going to go like positively, and so it doesn't. And Mason and Goodspeed's team is completely taken out. And
this is one of the smartest things the movie does, even though the gunfight is pretty dumb when you think about it. But this movie basically does all of this prep and then goes, surprise, it's a Die Hard. Like,
it's a Die Hard.
Yeah. We're actually getting rid of all these guys, and it's just the two of them.
It's just the two of them, which is kind of cool. It's one of the reasons The Rock is awesome.
Yeah.
Because Die Hard's awesome. It's a fun story. But we get this, the other thing I want to point out, just because we're going to probably talk about, systems and military and reverence. We once again get that like foreshadowed hypocrisy from Harrison Hummel. Like he yells out, "Cease fire," when someone hits a rock and that causes people to be alarmed. And so people start shooting. So it's an accidental, kind of firefight, so to speak, which is convenient. It doesn't make anyone out to be a tyrannical or a piece of shit. Although they do point out that there's two particularly sociopathic like captains who are like, let's just light these fuckers up.
The new guys. It's the new guys.
Yeah, they're psychopaths. They just want to kill and they want their money. But more on that later.
They're ridiculous. But yeah.
Yeah, but I just want to point out that Harris has a moment where he's yelling ceasefire while his men shoot all the Navy SEALs. It's clear he's not planning to kill anyone, but he's gotten everyone killed. And this is his tragedy. This is the thing in his final moments he's going to have to deal with. And he's like, what have I done? But again, for Michael Bay to be like, yeah, what manner of beast is war? It's actually surprising to me, and it's one of the reasons I think that The Rock does stand the test of time a little bit, is that it's a little, even for all of its patriotism and rah nationalism, it does have some stark commentary about the military being overly trusted and such, and this is one of the things that the movie's about. I just think it was an interesting touch that they're trying to build this thing where Harris is like, he's actually a good guy, but when they stick the landing, it's actually, he fucked up. He's a real piece of shit. In any case, we learn that Mason stole, we learn his deal, that the reason they were like, you said it was a need to know basis, and I need to know who the fuck is this guy? Because now only Goodspeed and Mason are alive.
Right.
And he's like, well, it turns out Mason stole all the J. Edgar Hoover files on everyone, all of America's dirty secrets, including the JFK assassination.
This is amazing because he says the JFK assassinations and the aliens at Roswell, and it's one FBI guy talking to another FBI guy, and the guy just goes that's it.
Does he know?
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like it's common knowledge between them because the guy doesn't go, wait, what JFK assassination and alien secrets are you referring to? He's like, how we have all those secrets about the aliens and stuff? Well, he took those, and they're like, yeah, I know that. We're in the FBI. Our orientation is them telling us about that.
Telling us this, which I think might be what we're supposed to believe.
Yes,
when
they're
watching this movie.
The shadow government.
I think the only difference is that he has the proof of it. Yes. He has the footage.
That's what it sounds like. It's it's America. Yeah. It's again, it seems like if you become a cop in this world, they're like, so let me tell you what happened at Roswell, and then it's just common knowledge for the FBI, and they're just like, yeah, we just can't let it get out. He has our dirty laundry.
Yeah,
it's so weird how casually he references that. How casually this gets injected into this film, because this adds a completely new and weird layer to this movie that I forget every single time I watch it.
I love conspiracy theorist Michael Bay. It's the perfect distrust of government hypocrisy.
It's such a wild thing to add into this. He could literally just say, "Oh, he has our government secrets,"
but at the same time, he's saluting the flag and saying, "This is peak humanity."
Yeah,
it's great. I mean, I know he's probably got a more nuanced take than I'm giving him credit. It's just so funny to see these things next to each other.
Yeah,
just scene after scene. In any cage, under orders, Cage tries to subdue Connery, who just dispatches him real quick. He's like, "You don't." Classic. You have your safety on, but turns out both they commiserate because we both have women in San Francisco, so we got to take out these rockets. Yep. At the same time, Harris's team bombs the sewers in order to lure the two out or just kill them, but they survive the onslaught, And they attempt to go out and find the launchers one by one and destroy the launch chips. That's the Die Hard. And we get the dialogue, my favorite dialogue. I'll do my best. Your best. Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
So
Carter
dad.
was the prom queen. And then he cocks his gun. Just
Incredible.
perfect daddy energy right there.
Yeah, basically it's Sean Connery just juicing him up to be an action star. Is this where we also get the "you must never hesitate" moment?
It's literally in the screenplay. I realized they're like 2 lines away from each other. I didn't realize how close it is. It's like just jumping around.
Because he throws
you must never hesitate.
He walks into a room, throws a commando knife. They do a Sam Raimi shot of the knife going in the man's throat, and then he turns and goes, "You must never hesitate."
It's so out of place. It has nothing to do with anything. It almost feels like they cut out a montage or something where Connery's like teaching Goodspeed how to kill.
Yeah.
And they just cut it for time.
This is where
this is the only remainder.
Yeah, the movie becomes a fever dream. And I like wrote down like a couple action scenes in this part, which is like they go in the room, they're getting the rocket, they fire through a desk. The military guy jumps up with 2 guns and just fires blindly. Sean Connery shoots his feet out. He falls on the ground.
Fire.
Yeah, and then Sean Connery shoots an air conditioning unit that crushes him.
He crushes him, and it's just what The Rock is.
Yep.
You know, you're just describing the greatest things.
Then they're in an office, and then they jump in a chute
right.
to a mine cart.
Dude, there's just a mine shaft, you know. And
office.
Connery also says the line when they're on the mine cart, "I'm too old for this."
Yep. There are multiple types of mine carts. There's also a gondola system. Mm-hmm. And so again, I just, it's an office that leads into I don't know where that,
like
why
an infirmary.
That chute.
Yeah.
Like why, what are they putting through the chute into the mine cart that then has a Temple of Doom train track that leads to gondola mine carts?
It sounds like you've never been to a prison.
Over the fucking waterfall.
You're showing how little you know right now. Yeah, and he throws one into the rock. Like, so the Marines, like, after they crash the minecart, the Marines like come in and he sets one on fire because for some reason they gave him a bottle of kerosene, which still makes no sense.
I wrote that down. They want to give him like they're like, "We gave you a MacGyver kit," and it's like why?
3 washers.
Yeah, and it's like I guess it's supposed to be like they did it for fun, but they gave him a bottle of kerosene.
Like, a bottle of kerosene is like a great thing to have if you want to create mayhem.
If the joke was like, "Yeah, we gave you like some rubber bands,
a toothpick,
but they're like, "No, we gave you a couple washers, a rubber band, and here's a knife. Try to make use of that.
Here's
smart
a bomb.
guy." Yeah.
Yeah. So like totally good move on their part because he lights up the guy's shoes with and he's on fire. So that's one of them.
I just
grapples.
I can't get past how brazen that is from a writing perspective, where it's like you can see the wheels turning. Like, let's have the guys as a joke, give him a bunch of useless items, and then later they come in handy. But the writers couldn't figure out how to take truly useless items and make them
just write a MacGyver.
Yeah, so they just added an item that's obviously can be a weapon. They're like, here's some kerosene and matches.
This movie does not give a shit.
No, it really doesn't.
I love that the second one he fights, and again he's like a 60-year-old man. He just strong arms him until he throws him into the rock waterfall. Yeah, which is another great second death. And then the final death in the mine shaft is Stanley Goodspeed takes his first life, which they treat as both haunting. But he also kind of just gets over it. Oh, yeah. Which is something I also love about Michael Bay films is that they'll play the tragedy, the woe of being a human. Anyway, let's get back to business, baby. And that's where we get the plant and payoff, I guess. It's the only reason they kept that first line about never hesitating because because he saved Connery's life. Right. He was like, you didn't hesitate. Again, unnecessary stuff. He could have just said thank you or anything, but it had to be cool, I guess, in order to get the chips back. Because I think there's like 3 chips now. They got a bunch of them. Hummel does this little intercom broadcast where he threatens to kill some random tourist, and Connery just then destroys the chips. He's like, we're all in, can't let this madman have it. But he kind of sees through Hummel's attitude, where he's like, I'm going to give myself up to Hummel. I'm going to do a righteous thing where I'm going to put my own body in harm's way rather than allow this guy to use this tourist as or this kidnapped man who's a civilian as collateral for me to do stuff. So Stanley Goodspeed now is on his own, and Connery is giving himself up to Hummel. And they have a tete-a-tete. They have a conversation because they're also two smarties. And the smartest thing on Michael Bay films you can do is say quotes of great men, like Thomas Jefferson and Oscar Wilde, American and British. Harris and Connery do quotes at each other to philosophize about patriotism and tyranny. In the end, Harris is just like, takes out his gun, shoves it down his throat. He's like, tell me where the chips are. I'm going to shoot you. Which is, that's fair. that's a great observation.
Yeah, he's just like, why are we quoting shit?
All this posturing, all this quotations about,
what are we going to convince each other?
Yeah, no, just give me the fucking shit I want. It's like, yeah, that's war. So pretty well done, Michael Bay, I guess. But with an hour before deadline. So we have an hour until the government either pays them the money or they get bombed. Connery and Cage are now in jail cells because, Cage is terrible and he just gets caught immediately. And that's where I take pleasure from gutting you, boy.
Yep.
Comes from.
And we also have how in the name of Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?
Which Connery, once again, as a daddy, breaks out with like a resourcefulness check.
In a way that I would argue would probably be something that they'd tamp down at in Alcatraz.
Yeah, especially because he did it, but also it's not that complex.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's how you do it? You have the switches right next to the cells?
Yeah. He basically he creates a kind of sling that he attaches to the bed frame wheel at the end to kind of make a heavy latch that he can alter the door mechanism.
Yeah.
And he does it, and it works, and they break out. So there's 2 rockets left, and Mason just attempts to leave. He's just like, you know what? Fuck this. I don't think Hummel is going to do it. I looked him in the eyes, which is another thing we see in dad films. I have a read on this guy, and he's not a murderer.
Yep.
So while Hummel's back in the Hummel kind of ranch, Hummel's sociopathic men, namely those 2 captains, including Tony Todd,
they nag him,
plea for him to just fire the rockets.
Tony Todd, I love those guys because they just want to kill a city. Like that's what they just want. They're just like, I woke up to kill a city.
I'm here for death.
Yeah.
Which is another that's fucked up statement. Like
I'm also gonna,
it's not that fucked up, but I mean like that's surprising for Michael Bay being as, patriotic as he is to be like, yeah, soldiers are sometimes just a fucking
I'm also going to say something controversial. I understand where they're coming from and not about murdering a city. Let me explain. This is a little bit skipping ahead, but Ed Harris basically says I was bluffing at one point, and he goes, we're done. And he basically convinced these guys to do a terrorism, a thing that you can't bluff. He's like, you'll never come back. You'll never be allowed back in the country, that you'll be punishable by death. These guys are all in. And then he goes, oh, by the way, I was kind of bluffing. And it's like, you didn't tell me that at the start.
Like I prepared for myself to die.
I prepared to do this stuff. And it's like, if you start by saying, listen, we're going to do this, but we're going to, it's all a bluff. Who's in? Just knowing from the start, this is a bluff. That would be like, but he didn't tell them.
No.
And they're like, motherfucker.
Because he didn't trust them to join him because of that.
But it's which is a statement I'm a terrorist now, motherfucker. It means
Hummel knows. It means Hummel knows that unless he's posturing to play towards their sociopathy, he's not going to get them. He knows this about soldiers.
Yeah,
that's kind of a damning statement about the military.
Oh yeah, he was hoping that his bluff would never be called. And he's almost, it feels like he's shocked, like, Jesus, they're not going to do this? They're going to just let me do this?
He's surprised.
Yeah.
He's like, you just have to do my orders.
Crazy, man.
You never mutiny, So there's 3 minutes until and they get a phone call from the government, from the White House. And they're like, give us another hour. We got problems. It's like, don't you own all the banks?
Shout out,
you know?
yeah. Shout out to one of the henchmen, by the way, where when they start setting up to bomb San Francisco, he goes, "Is this for real?" And that's just one of those lines where it's like the henchman doesn't get much lines, and like I feel like he like got ejected that in on the day, and they're like, "Let's keep it." And he's like, "Yes, I got a line. I got a pay bump."
It's true. It's true. He's got a line in the movie. So Hummel is like, well, if they're going to be this way, we got to start the protocol for the launch. Yep. And so everyone gets excited who wants to do a murder. And Hummel is acting like he's like, okay, you may fire at San Francisco. Turns out when that happens, Connery has changed his mind because 2 reasons. One, he wants Godspeed to live to see his child. But also he's like, I'm a 60-year-old man. I can't swim. Like, I can't swim back to San Francisco. Like, I'm too old for that shit.
Right.
So he returns, and while Stanley has been caught for the second time, he just comes up behind the guard, Connery, that is, and just breaks his neck. Yeah. Which is
he like thuds him on the ground. Dude. He like breaks his neck like a farm animal. Like he's it's brutal. By the way, also he does, spoilers later, swim away. It's very funny. Like he just in this moment forgot that they have the scuba stuff, I guess.
No, I think it's, again, the dad self-deprecation thing.
You're right.
I think it's I really want you to live. Yeah. He cares about Cage.
Oh, yeah.
But he's like, also, I can't swim.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
A piece of shit.
He's trying to,
Yeah. So Hummel fires the rocket at San Francisco. But at the last second, he uses the kill code to crash it into the water because he's not going to kill people. And Sean Connery's read on Ed Harris is absolutely right. Now, then we get a moment where, and I love David Morse in this. He's the right-hand man. He's the Major Tom, I believe.
David Morse is a good actor, and he's willing to do roles like this. And that's what
or like
his
in
power
12
is.
Monkeys.
Yeah.
You know, when he's just the guy who brings the influenza to the world.
It's just his power where it's like, we need just like a white guy, like just a really generic white guy to who can act really well and is willing to do like a smaller role. And David Morse is your guy. Yeah.
And specifically, like, you resonate because you look haunted.
Yeah,
you know, you have a lot going on in your brain.
Yeah, he's like if Mr. Potato Head saw his family die, where it's like he's interchangeable, but like, yeah, he's definitely terrifying in a weird, like, in a way.
You hear that, David Morse? Friend of the love you here at the podcast. David Morse and Ed Harris have a kind of candid conversation where he's like, Morse confronts him, the Major. He's like, General, I saw you sabotage the missile. He calls out his hypocrisy. Harris is like, dude, I'm not a murderer. And I love the line where he really shows the contempt of civility in war is nonsense. He says, Harris, that is, says, if you're going to be insubordinate, at least show a little more respect.
Yep.
Which I think is like perfect. Like the philosophy of The Rock, that perfectly encapsulates it. It's so fucking dumb because it shows that he understands that he is bartering on the goodwill of other people's thoughts about how awesome he is, and that's a populist kind of situation. It's not logical. It has little to do with patriotism at all. In fact, it's just, I have a gang and they trust me until they don't, and then I lose my power. It's a very dark kind of introspection about how politics works. Yeah. But in any case, it's a great line. It is a good line. And you also get the famous, like, you're being asked by a friend to put down the phone. You're being ordered by an officer. You're being forced by a man with a gun or whatever the line is. But it's like, it just escalates very quickly. And we all, as dads, go and watch that and go, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's lucky. So what's interesting about this movie that is kind of awesome is that you could look at this and go like, well, this is lazy. The problem just works itself out, right? Like you could make a version of, but here's the thing, is the mini bosses become the main bosses. They don't skip out on the ending. They spoilers, kill off Ed Harris here. there's a lesser movie would have just made him the bad guy from beginning to end, right?
Yeah, and
he's just the guy that he shoves the bead in at the end, the anal bead, and like he would just be the Gary Oldman in Air Force One, where it's like just main boss. This movie chooses to do, and I think this is because of the military stuff, and they want to say like there's kind of a bad apple vibe because they're like, this general, he can't be bad, like he has to be complex, but it works because they use his complexities to create like just more complexities within the movie that just makes the movie seem like wicked deep and junk. And
exactly.
and you're able to get these powerful scenes of these daddy actors shouting at each other about honor. So many scenes of guys going, I cannot do this. And the other guy going, I cannot let you not do this. And they're just acting their fucking dicks off. Mm-hmm. On top of still having like multiple, we kill the bad guy, let's strap Tony Todd to a fucking rocket, like action sequences. They get their cake and eat it too. And that's amazing.
Right. To your point as well, something that I don't think anyone like talks about, or at least I haven't I didn't think about this until this watch through. The president gives a speech when he, I don't think to the public, but to presumably a room of people, about ordering to bomb Alcatraz, saying it's like the worst decision I've ever had to make in my tenure as a human.
He should be like, frankly, it never crossed my mind that I'd have to bomb Alcatraz.
Yeah. But in that speech, he alludes to the fact that Harris has a great point, and it's a great disservice to America what has happened, almost taking credit and blame for the last 50 years of military uninvolvement.
The implication is Harris will get what he wants.
Yeah. Meaning they might actually have, like, the protest might have worked.
Right.
In other words, maybe you had to do a domestic terrorism, but also, like,
it's the reverence for the system. It's the Sorkin of it all, which is like, the president will change his mind.
He gets it a bit. Yeah. Because you made a compelling argument.
Yeah. He won't just
if only you didn't use violence.
Yeah, exactly.
That way we wouldn't have this problem.
I don't protest what your point. It's how you made your point, sir. And I just got to note this, like the guys yelling at each other. I realized what itch this scratches with the daddiness of it all is submarine movies. It's I take command. No, I have command, sir. We are disagreeing. We are yelling at each other about the situation. And the thing about submarine movies is they always have to rely on that because no one gets to strap someone to a rocket and fire them in a submarine movie. It's all it's all we're in a tube and the things that are happening is abstract. This gets to do both. And that's like,
because a true dad, it's not just about having a huge dick or a submarine or a rocket or, a rock, which is hard. It's not about that. It's about what you do with it.
Exactly.
And the guy behind the dick needs to be the right guy.
Right. And the Tony Todd in front of the dick flying through the air like a Muppet.
Fucking weirdest, ridiculous scene.
It's you.
The Rocket Man.
You're the Rocket Man.
Yeah. It's like a child made a joke. I don't get it. I never got it.
I don't get it either, but I'm glad it's
not
there.
a joke. I don't know what it is. It's like
a
rock
in a hard case where it's like you go like, haha, and then you think about it for a second, go like,
wait. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Why did you do all that? You could have done something else. But I guess because he likes Beatles, he also knows about Elton John. So
and
it's
Tony
like
Todd
a character
doesn't listen to
thing.
that soft shit.
I don't listen to that soft shit.
Tony
which
Todd
is so great though. That's the gift of The Rock.
Do you think
is that you get that kind of performance?
This was 1995, so I'm guessing in like the same year he played old Jake Sisko in Deep Space Nine. Tony Todd's just got that a career
1996,
where he's just his entire career is a fucking whirlwind.
I'm seeing Star Trek Voyager. Nope.
It doesn't matter.
Deep Space Nine was 95, 96.
Yeah.
Adult Jake Sisko. So absolutely.
It's amazing.
He filmed probably that episode before he filmed this.
Yeah, he filmed that episode and went.
Michael Bay is notorious for shooting way earlier and taking a lot of post time. So they could have been like concurrent.
Yeah.
Like it's a toss up what he actually shot before.
What a year.
What a year, man. Fucking Candyman. Okay. So, learning that they're not going to get any money and that Air Harris is bluffing, the particularly psychopathic captains mutiny Harris, and we get that scene where he dies and the dramatic, inspirational music plays. Because they're like, we want to kill tens of thousands of people. Harris dies along with Morse and a cadet who's like, I don't understand why I just got shot. It's a great performance.
Yeah.
The maniacs now have control, and Harris's final words lead not only is like, what have I done, but also I'm going to tell Sean Connery and Nick Cage where the last rocket is at the lighthouse. We get that scene with the Rocket Man, Elton John conversation where Tony Todd is killed. And the Marines basically are now, the remaining Marines are just full on attacking our two dads that remain. And Cage takes out the last rocket and protects the last VX gas pearls from getting smashed.
They do a thing here, which is that he takes out the last rocket and then still acts like he has to do something. And I was like, do the flares. The rocket's gone.
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, you're all set. But he like forgets. So he
has to like protect.
It's down to the wire.
The pearls are out. He doesn't want to just leave them out because then.
But that's what he did with all the other pearls, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's totally just made up. So, a few more murders happen, including the very cool death of putting the ball in the bad guy's mouth and then punching him.
Yeah.
But before Nick Cage's skin boils, Cage does the thing that's been a platinum payoff we didn't pay much attention to, which is that he's constantly being in situations where he needs to inject his heart with some kind of serum that protects your skin from boiling. I don't quite understand.
Some miracle serum, frankly.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, wait, they've had that? You said
apparently it isn't the gas contacting the skin that causes it to boil. It does something to your nervous system that it like boils from the inside, because apparently you need to inject it. It's not like a thing that you put on your skin. But in any case, we don't know. It doesn't matter. He heals himself and he hurries to an open space to light the flares to call off the airstrike after that happens, so that we can mainly have put the anal bead in the mouth and punch, which is one of the coolest things ever. And the guy spits it out and then his face boils off. It's pretty sweet. After that, the airstrike, it drops, but it misses because we needed one last explosion in a Michael Bay film.
Yep.
And knowing and confessing to Connery that Womack ripped up his pardon, Cage lets Connery escape, in the mayhem,
it's the honor,
the aftermath, because he's like, you're an honorable guy. You don't deserve to go see your daughter, kind of deal. And then when asked about it, Cage will tell Womack and company that he got vaporized. So because of that, as thanks, Connery, before he leaves, tells him where he can find all of America's secrets.
He has it on a note that he apparently pre-wrote.
I think he wrote just now or whatever.
Yeah. Also, I have to note the missile launches him like a frisbee, Nicolas Cage, into the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
And then when they ask, are the hostages alive to Nicolas Cage, he replies, every one of them. To which I reply, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
He doesn't. Well, I guess he's just inferring that it didn't hit where the hostages are. But he didn't know.
They get the explosion. And so he hands him that fucking... This is the most baffling ending to this movie. Because this is like, again, I've now remembered this ending, but in my brain, I always sort of forget because it's like not where the movie should end.
It has nothing to do with anything other than... And that would be cool if that happened.
Right. He's dressed like fucking Raising Arizona all of a sudden. They're going in their old rusted VW Bug to go steal a microfilm with the Kennedy assassination truth on it from a church. Because as a new father, that's definitely what he wants to do, is put this heat on his family. Like, I'm going to steal international secrets. Me, this FBI agent, chemical weapons specialist with a pregnant girlfriend. Honey, do you want to know who shot JFK? Credits.
That's the end of the rock.
What a weird way to end it. And I want to talk about why I think it's in here.
Yes.
When we get into our next segment.
which is now to the smoking room as we put on our coats and grab our pipes.
So
we must discuss what this adds to, how it's different than other dad films, and our theory about what makes a dad film. Do you guys want to start?
yeah, well, this just directly plays into that last thing. And maybe we've talked about this before, but it's so obvious looking at the other movies. Dads love conspiracies.
Yeah.
And this movie has a needless conspiracy. Sean Connery is a conspiracy himself, but the Kennedy stuff, dads love wondering who really shot Kennedy. They love it. They love documentaries on that shit. And when you look back at like, okay, the judge, it's kind of a mystery, like who killed this guy? The American president is like internal workings, everybody trying to rat fuck the president. The fugitive, Provasic, a whole conspiracy being uncovered, right?
Yeah.
Prince of Thieves, it's sort of like a conspiracy of the highest power to
taxes,
tax. Yeah. A heist is like a conspiracy, I guess, but that's like whatever. I think Inside Man is the better version of that, where it's like a heist to uncover a conspiracy,
to find out the truth.
What lies beneath. The bad guy is killing women.
Gaslighting. Yeah.
Armageddon, they do an entire conspiracy to hide the asteroid. They have a line. Another Michael Bay film says, "Hey, you guys know who shot Kennedy?" In that part where they have the demands.
Right.
So Michael Bay,
it's like a thing he likes.
Kiss the Girls is a conspiracy between two serial killers. The Edge is a conspiracy to kill him, Alec Baldwin, where dads love uncovering a larger conspiracy because I think it goes into like the hate of bureaucracy and like power dynamics and like everybody's against me.
Well, as you said it, it kind of dawned on me a little bit because we've done enough of these now that I really like. I'm no psychologist, and so don't listen to what I have to say. But like, I do like to play that game where it's like, why is it that we like this stuff, or why is it we don't in mass or on balance? And you're right about the system and like the feeling of self-importance and stuff like that, where I find the truth and like the world's gone crazy. But if you want to unpack it a little bit more, like there's a very clear psychology to me that seems pretty obvious, which is that a lot of the support system, or like the way that we talk about men in culture, it's almost always like you have to be the assured one. You have to be where the buck stops. You have to be the one kind of in control of like tough situations. Like the feeling is that's what makes a man, or that's what like Hollywood has spit back at us. Definitely. So the concept of having a conspiracy, something that says take that assurance completely out of the equation, it's not all as it seems, is like super endearing and enthralling to, I think, a lot of men.
Right.
Because they're supposed to believe on the logical thing, the thing that will help them survive. So it's almost like a fantasy to say like, but what if you did that and the thing that you thought was true wasn't true?
Right.
There's another secret truth.
Yeah. It's both exciting and horrifying.
Yeah, because we are like almost trained to think a certain way about stuff in order to like survive, or in order to, you know, become the patriarch or whatever.
Yeah. I think a lot of this is also framed just around like the thing you suspect is right. Because again, a lot of daddies are like, I think the government was involved, you know. I think the moon landing might have been faked. I think someone else shot JFK. So it's like confirming like, yeah, that thing you thought, it's right in this fictional world.
There's there's kind of like a sucking its own dick a little bit. I mean, we do that stuff all the time, you know. We have that scene, we have those scenes, and it's just remarkable how many scenes where it's like, this guy is the most badass guy that's ever been.
Yep.
He's killed so many people, and that's what we like.
Yep.
It's wild. It's wild. As long as you excel at you excel at something, you are worthwhile.
Yep.
Which is kind of another tenet of our, you know, theory here. Doing your job.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of are there's an everyman character element.
Job over family. I mean, it starts with Ed Harris telling his wife, I got to go do terrorism. His wife isn't even fucking alive. He doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So women are in peril or dead.
Oh my God. Women are so in peril. They literally truck in women to be in peril. that don't need to be in peril.
There's like 4 minutes. There's like 4 to 6 minutes of actual women like having conversations in this movie.
And here's
the
what's
rest
interesting:
of them are just sitting, waiting to be off.
Michael Bay loves this idea because we noticed it in Armageddon too, which is girlfriend is back with like the serious government guys. Remember when Liv Tyler was like just like crying into Billy Bob's shoulders, and it's like, do they know each other? And they like form a bond. She does that with like a random FBI guy in this, the girlfriend, and it's that Michael Bay where they do the flip of dynamic where it's like she's sitting there like, I'm in danger, and then suddenly at the end Nicolas Cage is in danger, just like how Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis are in danger in Armageddon, and it's suddenly then them in the same position crying for the guy being in danger.
The guy who can't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it gives him something to do to console her, right? Yeah. It's also something that Roland Emmerich does. You get it a lot in these like huge ensemble pieces, which Michael Bay do and Roland Emmerich both do.
Yeah.
And then they try to consolidate the locations of where all the poignant characters are involved.
Right.
So it's like, well, we always know we're going to need the man in the van, and that's the equivalent in like Independence Day or like you said, in Armageddon. It's always like mission control.
Yeah.
And so you bring all of the civilians there too that matter.
Yeah.
And
they
it's
love
like,
doing that.
why would it be that way? There wouldn't, but for the movie it would. It is.
It's convenient. I have dad, of course, dad's being calm, fusing the bomb. All the stuff where Sean Connery, like staying the course, is a big part where they're like, when they get the first hostage and Nicolas Cage is listening, Sean Connery just breaks the chips.
Yep.
And it's like, we got to stay the course.
We got to do the thing that we have doubled down. It's like, you've made your bet.
Yep. I want to...
their dicks work.
Of course.
Everyone's got children.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Everybody's dick works.
There's a lot of pissing contests.
Yep. Shout out to Doctors Are Bad / Just Walking It Off. There's as we talked about, there's a whole thing where Nicolas Cage does not want to inject himself with a needle, even when they're like, you need to do this so you don't pass out and we all die. And at the beginning, he's like, no, I'm going to defuse the bomb first.
Also, Sean Connery, who's old and like a few times like touches his back. You know, like, oh, fuck, I just suspended myself from a minecart.
This is also...
And then he just walks it off.
Yep.
You know?
There's also, and this is like a subtle moment where Nicolas Cage gets in the Ferrari, and when he crashes, he has to get out really quick, but the stupid airbag is keeping him in there, so he has to shoot the fucking airbag to get out. And I was like, those stupid fucking airbags. How dare they?
I fucking hate safety. Taking my freedom to...
Yeah. I'm maintaining
that share freedom.
Don't trust Whitey still applies.
Don't trust Whitey. Yeah, a lot of these are white films. Yeah. You know, it was the 90s. But we don't cover it exclusively.
I know
it's
technically true. It's just it's like just keeps coming up.
Being underestimated is something that I think is
Guile.
Representative.
The quarter to break the mirror, the sheets.
Yeah. The kind of laughing at Nicolas Cage for his knees trembling and like the other Navy SEALs going like, oh, look at this chuckle fuck.
The entire conflict is about Guile. It's, we could blow up the island. No, we have to infiltrate from the inside.
Right.
Oh, I just realized a offshoot of this is education versus real life application, meaning that a lot of these movies have the egghead who's like, well, technically that shouldn't. And they're like, hey, I was fucking there, man. I looked in his eyes. I know the blueprints in my head. Like there's a lot of it's intuition versus like just broad education.
And it's also where that fraternity comes out, which I started this, conversation with like, the fraternity is the thing that he's manipulating me, or manipulating in order to get what he wants. But it's interesting that like they're like the most honest that The Rock feels is like in moments where it's like, we spilled the same blood and the same blood. It's like the fraternity element, which is very much like, this isn't Master and Commander and doesn't have like a team. I mean, there is a team, but the team dies pretty quickly. And one could argue that Cage and, Connery form a team. But it's not as classical as like an army, like pecking order, like a band of brothers kind of deal.
Oh, yeah.
But it is very much like daddies love to watch the methodology and the protocols, but also the reasons why we fight, the reasons why we build brotherhood.
Yeah.
we love fraternity, obviously. I think I would argue that's true for like any film, you know. I think it's why we also have films like the Yaya Sisterhood and such, you know, like or what is it? Brady.
I mean, this
turning
one
80 or fuck, what is that movie? Whatever. 80
this
going on Brady.
What?
You don't remember what is that, mate? Fuck. This is not important.
It's not important. I agree.
80 going on Brady. The film.
It's not a movie.
2023 American sports film. With Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Sally Field, Rita Moreno.
I believe you.
You don't know about this? They're all big fans of Tom Brady. The
80 going on Brady, and do they all fuck Tom
80
Brady?
80 for Brady is
do
what
they all
it's
fuck
called.
him? Is it like about them just
I
having a
haven't seen
fucking
it.
foursome or fivesome?
Point is, whatever this is, it's here's the tagline: best friends get into the best kind of trouble.
Yeah, fucking
it's
Tom
the Wild
Brady.
Hogs. It's Wild Hogs.
Yeah, they're fucking his
It's
Wild
Space
Hog.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teamwork, baby. Anyway,
the big one,
unnecessary.
I guess I have one very big one and then the little ones. Like, so gadgets, obviously, mini cams, cool cars. They do the MacGyver. They use pressure cooker bombs. I noticed like whipping stuff together.
Everything seems like, well, you guys are a military. Like, don't you have access to like C4 and like the most expensive bombs? No, they clearly just made this out of a coffee can.
Yeah. No gray areas, just the lies are bad. It's how you do it, right? And so this goes into the big one to me is this whole movie is about reverence for a higher system versus rejection of authority or intertwined. So like
undermining authority.
Yeah, you want to like, it's the right thing to do is to give the families of these men benefits. And he's like, use your Pentagon slush fund, you know, because it's like the authority, the government is bad, but the reverence for serving your country is good. Ed Harris's whole thing is that this is honorable. I have to do a dishonorable thing. From time to time, the tree of liberty must be fucking watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Will be branded as traitors, but there were other traitors, the little known group called the Founding Fathers. It's a higher thing. It's bigger than the government itself. The government is bogged down with bureaucracy and bloat and slush funds. And we're doing what's honorable. And then it's like the other army, like, we spilled the same blood in the same mud. We are honorable. We fight alongside you, but I have promised, made an oath to protect the country from threats, foreign and domestic, sir. Yeah. And so it's just all like my reverence and honor versus your reverence and honor. And like we're all thinking about the same higher system that we honor, but we're bogged down with like the minutia of how to go about that. It's a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That's the heart of the movie. It's definitely Ed Harris's hypocrisy.
And the true bad guys, the bad apples, are the guys like the guy who makes he gives him his word that he'll be pardoned and rips it up. He has no honor. Yeah. These guys are going to kill civilians for real. They have no honor. Right. Those are the real villains.
Right. That's the thing, is that a lot of these movies I've noticed, like 3:10 to Yuma or even Wall Street, the mixing of the black hat and the white hat, which I think most people are familiar, that's just terms taken from Westerns where guys in black hats are bad guys, white hats are, sometimes it's pretty classic in dad movies to smash together black hat, white hat. But some dad films like to take a mix of bad and good for your main character and really force you to choose between the two. Like Wall Street does that. 3:10 to Yuma does that.
Right.
Usually the literal father films, like where they're dealing with their own father, or there's a mentor who's like kind of a surrogate father, right? There's of course always the Jack Ryans and the Alex Crosses, where there's just like, let's take a look at this guy who's badass doing badass stuff, for sure. Yeah. But this is like Ed Harris is a domestic terrorist. I mean, he's patriotic, and he's actually a good guy if it weren't for all the murder.
Yep.
Likewise, Connery is a piece of shit criminal, but you know what? After spending time with him, he's actually a good guy if it weren't for all the murder.
Right.
You know, so it's like we get this like almost reflection of each other, or two sides of.
But I would argue it still goes with the no gray areas, because we learned Ed Harris, he's not actually going to kill anybody. He was in control the whole time. Sean Connery, what he did was he was abandoned by his country, right? He went to steal stuff for England. He was just doing his job for his country. And then it's like, it's that where it's like, what, you know, they never cross a line that would have to be crossed.
It's kind of what you said though. Like you alluded to it. It's, but it is gray. It's always gray. In dad films, there's almost always gray, except with the exceptions being like kind of lamer ones where it's just like take out the bad guy. But it's always gray, but it's our job as men, as fathers, to assess the gray, turn it into shades, and determine what your criterion is for what is the right thing to do. So it's like forming black and white out of
For example, Ed Harris had to die. He had to die. Because, yes, he's a good guy. He's not going to kill anybody, but he did this thing. He caused the situation where other people died. He needs to be put to death according to
broke the covenant.
Yeah, the rules of the movie.
Yeah, and almost always systems break the covenant.
Right.
Like that's the big thing, and that's why conspiracies are a thing.
It's amazing how like all dad action films have that scene. We always know it as the bad guy pulls out a gun at the last minute so the good guy can blow his head off, right? It's like you have to allow the good guy to punish and kill the bad guy, but the good guy still has to be good. So they do it in this way by doing it with Ed Harris, where it's like, well, he's killed by his own people.
Yeah.
Bing,
yeah,
bang,
you reap what you sow. There's kind of a logic. Everything is explained.
Yeah.
Is explainable. There's this logic to it where it's like it's a poetic justice. So because it's like written and made up. So that's it for sure.
Oh yeah.
But it's almost like this is the way it should be. You know, like if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes kind of logic. Where we've noticed in life that that's true, but in dad films more than anywhere, it's almost like they have intentional meaning because they're almost always to do, are you going to be a good man or are you going to be a company man is the kind of vibe that we get.
Right, yeah.
Which is why we also, not in this film, but we get things like blue collar versus the elite class and such. Like these are the conversations that dad movies like to have.
I love that.
Because we find value in both. We see like, but to be the elite, to be rich, to be successful, this is something that a dad should be, right? But also to be a good man, to be salt of the earth, to know where you came from and to grow from where you're planted. These are also virtues.
Right. And
so it's navigating these like what virtue trumps the next other virtue is like crazy interesting to us. It's why, you know, all these guys are quoting Thomas Jefferson or Marcus Aurelius in other films. Because these are the questions about authority that dads consume themselves with because they don't know. Because the real rub is that no one fucking knows. No one knows what to do.
No.
We just start trying to figure it out together. In any case, I think I think we nailed it. I think The Rock is
I think we nailed it. I think we solved The Rock.
It's also called The Rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's a rock.
Hard. It's hard as a rock. And I think this is one of the biggest dad movies that we've created.
Oh,
I think
by far.
I don't know if it's. Would you say like Master and Commander? Like we don't typically do this, and you don't have to do it. We don't like. We're not ranking.
We don't
them.
rank our dads, but like.
But I'm like, they are different films, but they're of the same. You know, they're made of the same atoms.
Yeah,
but like when I think of the dad film, I usually think of like Master and Commander. The other action thriller that we've covered in this is The Fugitive,
right?
Which usually tops those lists. And the other Michael Bay film that we've covered is Armageddon.
It's in terms of what like. It's a different conversation to be like, what's the biggest dad film versus what's the most popular dad film? Does that make sense? So The Fugitive to me is like, man, that's such a dad film versus like this, like that in terms of like how iconic it is. It's an iconically dad film where this, I'm like, this is more dad than The
This is-
Fugitive.
Yeah, I would agree. I think because it just has a lot more going on,
Right.
in terms of like the choices that he has to make,
Yeah.
that people have to make, and where they stand in, relative to all things. With The Fugitive, it's like, that Gimbel's right the whole time.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do it, right? So it's just a vengeance story, or it's like, finding a way to, it's wish fulfillment. I mean,
Yeah.
all this stuff is wish fulfillment, but
Movies are.
I would say that The Rock is definitely on the top of the lists in terms of checking all these boxes and maybe having philosophically the most daddy conversation
Yes.
that we've seen. But The Rock is just cut and dry.
Simple.
Just the military, it doesn't get more daddy than that. Yeah, I think we're going to also talk a lot about this in our next episode, which I want to preempt people. I think we're going to cover Red Dawn.
Oh, yeah, we are. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. So go out and watch that.
Go out and
Rarely
watch
do
Red
we
Dawn.
have the next one loaded for you, but this time we do. So unless you have anything else to add, Dave, do a little plug.
I co-run a podcast network with Tom Ryman called Gamefully Unemployed, GAMEFULLY, Unemployed. Get it wherever there's podcasts. We have a Patreon. Check that out. We have exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. We also do podcasts with the Small Beans that we co-host Star Trek Next Futurama and Spiel Boys on there as well. So check all
you're
that
probably
out.
aware, unless this is the only
you're
show
probably
that you
aware.
listen to. All right, man. Well, we'll see you in another month.
Yeah.
And may the dad be with you. I
May
guess.
dads be in you.